Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Conquer the Clutter. It's the middle of July. Do you believe it? This is the weather we waited for, we dreamed of in the middle of the winter when we thought, it's terrible. Well, this is our payoff. Anyway, today's podcast, I am responding to really so many requests by email and even live on the podcast about, I just can't get started. I can't find my motivation. I think it's, and somebody even said, missing in action. And I thought, that's a really good title for a podcast. And apparently it's a pretty common experience, and certainly with everybody at some point or other. The trick is when it gets a hold of you. So I thought that we could talk about, I've added my clinical experience over 20 years with hoarding and clutter and the other comorbidities. This is just a handy dandy little book. And I've kind of used his index as a guide just to kind of prompt my thoughts, my own thoughts, and what my clients have told me over many, many years as well. So we're going to kind of pair with him. And the positive of the book is it has lots of good ideas. All right. The negative of the book is it's a little bit the formula of it, it's a little too formula-like. It's a little too protocol. Okay, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And if only it was that easy, I think you have to be already pretty motivated, or not kind of confounded maybe by some of the comorbidities that are more common in hoarding and clutter situations. But, it's not a bad start. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start with motivation today. We may not get the whole thing finished, but then we're going to talk about, in his terms, mastering. It won't be mastering. It'll be getting a firm grip on. That's my version of it. Time and your focus. All right. And then the fourth topic we're going to talk about by that time is how to avoid, or when you identify it's happening, negative thinking. All right. Because negative thinking is the killer. All right. It is the thing that sucks the energy out of your the way you want to spend the time, what you want to accomplish by being motivated, and what you want to be able to have enough focus on, anything that you can persist through to completion. So we've got about a 4-part series we're going to do, all right, over the next many weeks. All right. And if anybody has any other ideas, I'm always open. If I'm going to put a podcast on for you, I might as well be talking about something that you really want to hear about and you feel you need. Send me an email to elaine.birchall, BIRCHALL, @hoarding.ca. All right. So, as I said, so many of you really expressed your frustration with yourself, that you, even when you can find the motivation, you find it extremely difficult to keep it going and persist, especially persist through to completion of what in truth you really do want to do. All right, you really do want to accomplish. There's no doubt about that. So one of my favorite sayings, I thought it was kind of interesting. I think a good idea keeps popping up, and may be expressed differently by different people. But one of my favorite sayings is what he actually opens his book with, and that's Newton's first law of motion. Anybody know what Newton's first law of motion is? A body in motion stays in motion. A body at rest stays at rest. That is true. And that's true as much for rocks rolling down a hill as it is for us. All right. We are part of the universe and we live or don't live well using its basic principles. So there's no magic. That's what I'm trying to tell you here. There is no magic. All right. We are like everything else in this universe. Remaining in motion, all right, can affect something as simple as cognitive and the cognitive and the emotional balance which we require as human beings. First we feel it, then we think it, or vice versa, of goal setting, right? And if we don't set a goal, we're not likely to reach it if we don't break that goal down into doable steps. And that is very unique for each and every one of you. All right. And remember, many podcasts ago, we talked about what the two essential components are that need to balance for us to move forward with anything. And that is, we need to feel competent and we need to feel resourced in order to take a task on, formulate a goal, and start moving forward with that goal so that our goals aren't just wishful thinking. We need to feel competent. That means, to some degree anyway, we feel we have the ability, we have the knowledge, the basic knowledge. We have some of the skills, enough of the skills at least to get started. And resourced, we have the motivation. We have enough, not perfect, but enough time, enough energy. We have enough tools. We have the right tools, at least some of them, to start getting us moving forward. All right. So, and those two things we need to keep in balance. If you can't remember about those essential components for goal setting and action, go back to the podcast titled, all right, such. All right, so when we keep those two elements in balance, we are less likely, and if we don't, we are more likely, all right, to be able, we are less likely to be able to move forward. Why? If it's not in balance, because we're out trying to find them or we're out trying to develop them, and we waste the energy, we waste the time, we waste the focus. We empty ourselves on the search. Energy and focus aren't something that most of us have an overabundance of. Can anybody relate to that? Is that true for anybody else out there? All right. Most people's lives, I know certainly mine does, from time to time have complications. Count on the fact that your life will have complications. Factor it in, all right? We have worries. We have challenges. And then on top of things, sometimes life throws us little hiccups. Every single one of those things can slow us down. The accumulation of those, if we don't deal well enough with them as we move through our day, that accumulation of them can also bring us to a grinding halt. That's why I say, as much as possible, do today's work today. Don't make today's work tomorrow's extra problem. All right. And then if we let those things build up, we don't deal with them even well enough each day, the best we can, then there is that dreaded O word that we have to contend with. What's the dreaded O word? All together now. Overwhelmed. They overwhelm us when they accumulate. That's what's happened with the piles when you put the things down rather than those 5, maybe 10 steps to put it away. All right. And we all know what happens when you're overwhelmed. You can go to any one of the previous podcasts to remind yourself. All right. We become susceptible to the dreaded P word. What's the dreaded P word? All together now. Procrastination. Okay. Procrastination doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design. It happens because we don't make today responsible for enough of today's decisions. We leave them till tomorrow thinking somehow we're going to feel better tomorrow. Somehow what we don't want to do today, what we don't feel able to do today, even some of it, enough of it, somehow it's going to be easier or more successful if we leave it till tomorrow. We're going to feel differently tomorrow. I have never experienced that. Is there anybody here who has experienced that if I just leave it as a matter of habit, somehow tomorrow it's easier or better or more doable? Okay. Procrastination doesn't cause that sense of being overwhelmed, but it certainly enhances any existing level, that latent kind of quiet bubbling of anxiety, depression, confusion, or any of the other comorbidities. Sorry, my lips aren't working. Comorbidities, all right? Progress, goal setting. You want progress. You set the goals. They require our brains to work in a systematic way. Now, some of those comorbidities did at that time, woo, some of those comorbidities are ADD, attention deficit disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, anxiety. Half the Western world has anxiety. All right. Depression. All right. We've just been through, 2 years of a pandemic, and it looks like we're not out of it yet. All right. Basically, what we're trying to do is to turn these different versions into something that becomes like the flu that we need to have a vaccine for every year. That would be progress. Okay. We've been through a lot, people. And no matter what we started with, we have to respect the fact when we're judging ourselves or we're feeling less than, I want every one of you to acknowledge you still are on your feet. And more or less, you still are in the fight. All right. And so you deserve an awful lot of credit. All right. This has not been an easy 2 years. All right. And I have to say, it's been made a whole lot better by seeing you every week. Starting these podcasts and seeing you every week has been a real plus in my week, I'll tell you. So thank you for coming, and thank you for attending, and thank you for all of your feedback and your ideas. Now I want to do a little check-in. Would you say that right now, as you're listening to me, that you feel to some degree stuck? Anybody? Would you say that you can't quite access the motivation you need? Would you say that this is not the first time? This is not the first round on this, okay? That to some degree, not perpetually, but repeatedly maybe, you've been unable to make the progress that you really, really want. And even though the goal you're setting is really important to you, all right, you're really sincere and serious about it. And we've talked about this a great deal. Do you still find yourself judging yourself harshly? Has anybody made any progress with that? All right. Because every time you judge yourself harshly for human limits, why don't you just tie a boulder all right, and drag it through the rest of your day. Because that's what you do. You let the air out of your own tires when you do that. And beating yourself up for things that you've been unable to complete or accomplish. To some degree, how many people here are still feeling to some degree overwhelmed? Do you find that being overwhelmed and being unable to summon up the motivation you really want and you really need interferes with your ability to even sometimes, how often, approach tasks? And even be able to consistently make simple decisions? Hands up. I've had a lot of hands up on that one, boy. Does this add to or compound your self-doubt? Have you just created a loop? How about when you experience those things, you hear my voice instead? All right. And I say, don't step on the landmine. That click was a landmine. Don't step on the landmine, people. It isn't going to improve anything. Hang in until the end of this podcast. I'm going to try to get through all of this material. We might run over. If you can't stay with me live, for heaven's sakes, come back and listen to whatever you couldn't stay with at the end, okay? Because I'm including a strategy at the end that I am going to ask for the effort that I put into creating this podcast for you. I'm going to ask you to put your effort into trying and seeing if you can mastering. It's a simple strategy. That strategy at the end of this podcast, okay? Because does that revisiting, that re-loop back to self-doubt, self-judgment, does it cause you to worry? You know, I've been here before. Is this ever going to change? What's wrong with me? All right. What's wrong with me? Is this like my future? All right. Just because you haven't been able to find your way out of it today or yesterday or the day before, all right, the wrong question is what's wrong with me? The wrong question is what's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you. The right question is what's wrong with the way I'm approaching this? What's wrong with the plan? All right, that's the question. And in your frustration with yourself, do you keep, oh, please don't do this, ping-ponging or jumping from one task to another? I'm frustrated with this. You know, I don't know. I'm not just going to sit with it and find peace with it and finish the darn thing and claim success. Okay, maybe this job would be easier. Okay, I'm a little tired of that. About a fire. Okay, what about this? And so you make like little tiny dents in a number of things, but you don't get the satisfaction of having finished the thing that is irritating you the most or troubling you the most or would give you the most back. All right. So you ping pong back and forth, never actually completing any, never or not often enough able to sustain your effort, pace yourself. All right. If you have to, slow down, but keep going and focus on it. Focus on it. Continue to focus on it until you complete it. All right. Even most of the tasks that you set before yourself, you can complete. You may need to manage yourself a little differently. And you're not going to be able to do that any better by beating yourself up and going into self-doubt. That is not going to help you. Reminding you that you've done this before, and here we are again, is not going to help. Don't step on the landmine, people. All right? There's good news. Even if you are stuck right now, even if you do to some degree feel overwhelmed, the lowest probability possible, the odds are really seriously against the fact that that has to be a forever situation. Okay? Nobody would take odds on that bet. So don't you. Don't be telling yourself that. All right? Wherever we go, there we are. So if you use the same attitude, if you use the same strategies, if you don't question the plan or the pace, if you question yourself, you're the one who's determining that you end up in the same predicament. Same plan, same result, same recipe, same cookies. All right, you put the same ingredients in, you're not going to end up with a different product. All right, just think about that. If you were trying to make chocolate chip cookies, okay, would you use sourdough bread dough? Probably not. All right, would you cook it at the wrong temperature? Would you speed it up? Would you decide that if you just left it in there, wherever it is, for another 3 days, somehow it's going to get better? Translate that thinking into something practical that you already know to challenge habit, because wherever we go, there we are. Okay, sooner or later, okay, we are all going to go through periods where we feel stuck. If you're in one, keep moving, slow down, keep moving forwards, more slowly, but keep moving forward. All right, we're all going to feel overwhelmed. The best solution to overwhelmed is get up and take care of yourself. Get up and take care of yourself. The trick is, and it is a trick, all right, not to let it get a hold on you. If you've been there before, you know what it feels like. At the first inkling, that's when you call it. And the first thing you do is not work when you feel it coming on again. The first thing you do is you take good care of yourself. The basics: enough sleep, proper diet, hydrate yourself. What are we, 98% water? Get out, get a little exercise. It's one of the best solutions for being stuck. You don't have to be an athlete. You walk at your own pace. All right? Garden, do something. Get a hold, don't let it have a hold on you. And never, first inkling that you're starting to, oh, I don't know what's wrong. Stop right there. Don't finish the sentence. I don't know what's wrong with me. Why am I? Don't ask the why question. Don't ask the why question, and don't get to beating yourself up. All right. All that does is waste your focus and your energy, and it sinks you in negative thinking. All right. Feeling less than, there's that dreaded word again. All right. Now it's the S word, should. When you use the word should, basically what you're doing, should is a shovel. All you're doing is digging yourself into whatever you're in deeper. Should is a rule. Rules never changed anything. They're guidelines. They're things to aim for. They are not expectations that we should set ourselves up to believe we have to follow every day of our life. Remember my second favorite expression. No one ever overcame anything even mildly difficult by feeling less about themselves. Don't step on the landmine. So let's start. Best solutions are the results of best assessments. So right now, get out your paper and pen. Let's try to look at this a little more objectively, all right? Less personally, more objectively. And if that's possible for you right now, let's see if we can identify a few of the negative thoughts that are holding you back and how those negative thoughts translate into negative emotional content, that boulder that you're dragging behind you when you do this, which then naturally, of course, all right, we've just finished a whole section on this, we will be sending to the part of our body that makes up that hormonal soup and then sends it to our brain. And our brain does nothing good with it. When it's anxiety, when it's negative thinking, all right, we release a soup of hormones that go to our brain and say, you're worthless, you're not competent, you're not successful. Remember all the other mistakes in your life you've made. Remember all the other, that's what those hormones do, that is the compilation of those negative thinking. Okay. And that is not going to give you the results you started out wanting. Can you see that what you're really doing is, when you do that, all right, is piling on the pressure. So let's stop it right now and ask ourselves, even if you feel that the truth about it is that there's a tiny bit of responsibility, accountability that is warranted and true. Accountability is not bad, all right? How in heaven's name is it going to help you? Same data in, same results out. Remember that. Remember the cookie analogy, all right? Don't question yourself, question your plan. Now let's see how, with a little ingenuity, being willing to try things a little bit differently, we might be able to help ourselves gather the momentum to realize the way out of this is working from your strengths. Right now, I want each and every one of you, I'm going to stop for a minute or two. I want each and every one of you to write down at least three strengths that you have. Each and every one of you, at least 3 strengths. I see Kelly reaching for her paper and pen. Yay, good. Christina is leaning over. She has to be doing it. Miriam looks like she's looking at the page. Suzanne, I can see, is writing. I see her pen. This is good. Barlow, I can see you looking down at something. This is good. 3 strengths. Rather than the injection of poisonous soup and really negative hormones, all right, I want you to go to your strengths. Don't question yourself, question your plan. And start with your strengths. Remind yourself of your strengths. One of your strengths, too, everybody gets to add a 4th today, and that is persistence. Persistence and perseverance are going to get you there. They are. Every one of you show up for these podcasts, if not every single time, so regularly that I feel I know you personally. Okay? That's a strength. That is what's going to get you through. Your perseverance. And hopefully some of the topics in the podcasts will be useful to you. The reason I have the library on the computer on hoarding.ca is I want you to be able to go back to the ones that you want to remind yourself of, because you're at that point then. You're at that point in your progress. Don't remind yourself of your failures, your setbacks, your challenges, the things that maybe you need to learn a little more about, or you need to get slightly better at. We all have a list. All right. Go to your strengths. Always. Never go to fear. Always go to fact. Never go to fear. Always go to fact. And the fact is, you know you have those strengths that you've just written down. That's where you go. Never go to your shortcomings. And while we're at it, all your areas in need of growth, all right, if you added all those up, what would it take for you to build up enough momentum and motivation to have something that you could call on regularly? You'd be in charge of it. What would it take for you to use those strengths to build up enough momentum that you could even get yourself started a little on a regular basis? All right. And you could call on that little burst. You know that little thing when you turn your car on and it just gives it that little to kind of start the engine? And hopefully your engine doesn't sound like that. All right. That asset, that long-term asset, I want you to practice that this week. I want you to practice being in touch with when you say, yep, I'm just going to do this. What is that feeling? How can you identify that starter, your starter engine? All right. You don't have to persist through to complete the whole task. It's the just getting up and getting started. I want to help you to develop enough awareness of that starter piece in you that you can call on it regularly. You own it. It's not an accident. It doesn't have to be your best day. The sun and the moon don't have to be aligned at any particular angle. It's yours. You own it. All right. And I want to help you teach yourself how to access that in your own unique way. So let's do a little experiment today together. You know that one thing that's really been bugging you? It's there, okay? It reminds you, right? It probably sounds something like, I'm here. You haven't finished me, all right? What would it be like right now to make a date with that one small part, with even one small part of that task, that undone task? How much motivation, energy, or how little motivation, energy, and focus do you need to summon up? Do you believe that you have what it would take to focus on that one small part of that task that is haunting you, that is bugging you, that is saying, I'm bigger than you are. Okay, I've got you confounded. And do you have enough time, focus, energy right now to even do one small piece of that undone task. Right now, take your pen and paper, and under your strengths, I want you to write, what is that one undone task? There may be many, but what is the one that's really bugging you? It's got your name on it, and it's going, na, 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 na. You can't do me. And when you look at it, you're not coming out the winner in your own mind. Okay. What is it? Write it down. Okay. I'm going to encourage you not just to identify it in your mind's eye right now. I want you to stare down that one small piece, that one small task. All right. That's maybe it's part of a bigger one. It may not be the whole show. Stare it down right now. Identify it. Don't let it be vague. It's got to be specific. You've got to put a target on it in your own mind. It doesn't have to be big. Call it out. You're muted. Call it out right now out loud. What is it? I want to see lips moving. What is it? Call it out. Give it a name. Give it a size. How big? How much? Give it a space. Where is it? Or there on that pile. It's on the coffee table. It's upstairs. Give it a space. Where is it? Where is it? Come on. Give it a quantity. I only have to do one. This is just about how to find my starter engine. Give it a quantity. Give it an example. What will it look like when that one small piece of that maybe bigger task is done? How big is it? Do you need to call a friend to help you carry out whatever it is? Do you need a tool? Do you need a broom? Do you need a dust mop? Do you need a shovel? Do you need a... What is it you need? Remember, competence and resources. That's what we're doing here. What do you need? How small is it? And then I want you to make a promise to yourself. Not me, not anybody else, all right? That at the end of this podcast, you're going to have a showdown with that one small thing. One small thing. I want you to hear dueling if I was a singer, I could sing the theme from Dueling Banjos here. All right. Okay, it's the reason I didn't go into music. So I want you to have a showdown with it. Is there anyone, and if it feels like, I think I could put dents in the wall, or I might need a little help. Is there anyone you could trust enough that you could make a list? All right. I want you to do this for sure, that one small thing. But then what I want you to do is, while you're at it, I want you to make a short list, all right, of a number of associated one small task, all right, or one small part of that larger undone pile, or whatever it is, all right, that it would take. How many pieces would it take to break it down, and gradually, one small piece at a time? I know I'm repeating myself, but I'm really mean one small piece. Get that darn thing done. All right. Is there anybody you know, you like, you trust enough that they could do something for you? I did this with a client this week who is, where is she? She's somewhere close to Chicago. All right. So I'm in Ottawa. We're a little ways away from one another. We did this week, and you know what? She's got the whole thing, and she's got the whole thing done. She's got the whole thing done by doing this task this way. Okay, first, not beating yourself up. Let go of the judgment and the shame and the embarrassment and the whatever. All right. Make a list. All right. So is there anyone you trust enough that you could give that list to? All right. That list of how many one small pieces, one small task at a time, it would take for you to guarantee with whatever motivation, energy, and focus you have on a daily basis. All right. And by the way, if you're attending this podcast, you've got some extra of all three: time, focus, and energy. Come on, you know you do. I'm going to let somebody in there. Okay. Even just a little in the tank, just that little bit. Ask that person to be for this one exercise, just so that you can experiment with the power of it, the effectiveness of it. Ask that person to be your clutter buddy for one time only, and only do one thing. Send you an email or a voicemail message, whatever works for you, every single day, and ask you not to check up, all right? Ask you, how are you doing with that first one small task, one small thing on the list? And the next day they ask you, how are you doing with the next one? They name it. And the next one, and the next one, and the next one, one small task at a time. All right. And you reply. Pretty good, done, partly done. You reply to them. So you're not accounting to them. All right. They're not in charge of you. They're not your parent. They're not your judge. They don't get to express an opinion about how well you did. They're your buddy. You're just affirming yourself. It's a way to respectfully affirm yourself. Yeah, it was only one small thing, but it's one small thing less. And that'll feel really good to you. It's really important. Don't pick somebody who's a power tripper. All right. All right. You're not accounting to them. You're not a child and they're your mom, and now you get to go out or you get your allowance, or, the jobs are done. That's not what this is. It's somebody to share and help you be accountable to yourself and affirm yourself. All right. Because that thing is not bigger than you are, and you shouldn't give it the power and importance to bug you that much. All right. And to make you feel negatively about yourself. Can you do that? Can you? Each of you, can you do that? If you don't have somebody, okay, if you don't have somebody who you trust that much, then I would suggest, you sound a little schizophrenic here, but I would suggest that you leave an email for yourself. You leave a voicemail for yourself. Just as good. All right. And all you do is check in. Yep. That one small thing is done. If you can't get that one small thing done, I'm going to give you a little hint. You're probably aiming too high and too big. I'm talking one small thing here. All right. And when you do it, how you affirm yourself. All right. You remind yourself. You give yourself what you need. Are you willing to do that? See a lot of nodding. Good. Okay. Right now, write down the starting point, that one small thing. What is it? I'll give you a minute. I'm talking tiny thing. If somebody just sent me a message here in the chat box saying they're finding it really hard, okay, break it down. Maybe it's that the pen you've got in your hand, you're going to put in a container rather than put it down. Whatever load of overwhelmed or other worries, other challenges you're carrying right now, all right, all that does is dictate how small the thing needs to be for you to do it. So pick a small thing, but continue to go back to the same pile, the same space, so that in the end, you have something to show yourself that you can look at. All right. And say, whatever else there is, I'm getting to you. I've got a plan, I'm getting to you. You, I did. You, I did. All right. Okay. So write it down on a pad and paper. What is it? And what's your deadline for that one small thing? So that one small thing might be, I'm going to pick up a dish. I'm going to pick up a pattern. I'm going to pick up something that I left lying. One small thing. All right. And by whatever time tomorrow, noon tomorrow, it'll be done. I'll do that today. And then tomorrow at noon, I will identify one more small thing. And by noon the next day, it'll be done. Keep going back to the same spot and finish that spot however many times it takes. Doesn't matter how many times it takes. It doesn't matter how many times it takes, so long as you are honestly doing one small thing at a time. And why are we doing this? We're doing this for you to develop a much richer experience with your starter engine, frankly. With overcoming that, when you set a big expectation, you're going to clean the whole table. Good luck with that some days. All right. So when I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. That's what I want to get you to. But you don't set yourself up so that you over promise. Then you're really cautious and you're very respectful of your own energy, your own focus, your own motivation, the other challenges that this day brings and carries for you. But when you give yourself your word, you keep your word to yourself. You are that worthy. You are worthy of the respect, the self-respect of keeping your word to yourself, and you practice it one small promise at a time. That will also enrich your self-esteem and return your self-respect to yourself and your confidence in yourself. All right, your confidence in yourself. Remember, one small thing completed is better, is worth more than 100 things planned or promised that are part of a goal. One small thing is better than a comprehensive unmet goal or plan. ask yourself this. Which one small thing would give you the most peace of mind? Is there one small thing that just really irritates you? I would go for the thing that would give me peace of mind. Well, safety first, though, folks, okay? Safety first. But yeah, I would go for peace of mind. And that's the thing that would be a really good idea to choose. And don't tell yourself that this one small thing is inadequate or insufficient. It isn't. It's more than what's been happening. It's good enough. It's your first step to success. It's your first doable step to action. And ending the tyranny of the clutter. This honestly, done repeatedly, one small thing, all right, will end the tyranny of that clutter for you. I assure you of that. I've done nothing but this for 20 years. All right. One small thing at a time, done repeatedly and consistently, space to space to space to space, is going to get you there. Especially if at the same time, today's work, you don't backfill behind. So if you put things away, if you put things in the sink rather than down, if when the groceries come in, catch your breath, all right? Catch your breath. Put them away, not just the perishables. When you come in through the door, go and do whatever you have to do right away. And then go back and look at what you put down by the door. One at a time, just put them away. And then do one small thing on your undone piles. You'll be singing a different song, I'll tell you. Okay? You'll be doing a podcast on clutter. How many people right now listening spend any amount of time dwelling on the past, wishing that they'd done things differently? Not just with a passing thought that it would have been better if, for instance, I blah, instead belaboring the fact that they should have done things differently. And basically grinding on themselves about something that they can't change.
No.
Did you learn from it? Did you learn from it? Some of the hardest things in our life are things we learn the most from. Even if it's only, I don't want to repeat that again. All right. There are some things in our life that we can't change. And there are other things that we can't completely control. But most we can influence, at least influence. All right. But we can't influence them by looking backward. The only things that we can possibly change are the future. Can you see the benefit in stopping the behavior of grinding and belaboring things you can't change? All right. Can you see the wisdom of accepting that, you know what, for good, bad, or indifferent, that is how things happened. And if you'd known more or been in a different position, you might have made a different choice. But the only way out of a situation right now is through it. And through it is the future, which you also can't control. You can influence it, though. Better data in, better results out. You know more. Those things that you regret, all right, whether you caused them or somebody else caused them, you've learned from them. All right, you come to today more experienced about yourself, your strengths, areas, your weaknesses, your vulnerabilities, how the world works. All right, and grinding on it only digs you in a hole. Is being in a hole any part of your goal? If it isn't, why continue doing it? Don't do it. What else can you do instead? You can always do something. All right? Can you find a way to exert through this, find your starter engine, enough mental discipline on yourself and make yourself stop wheel spinning? All right? That going over and over and over, it is wheel spinning. All right? When a wheel is spinning, think about it. When a wheel is spinning, it doesn't have any traction. It wouldn't be able to spin if it had traction. And if it isn't going anywhere except around and around and around and around and around and around in the same circle, is being in a never-ending circle any part of your goal? Do you see what I mean when I say, don't judge yourself, judge your plan, judge your strategy? If you're using that kind of strategy, does it surprise you you're not making progress? How do you feel at the end of the wheel spinning? We all have things. I have things I regret. I have things that if I could do it, have done it differently, I would do it differently. But you know what? That doesn't change a darn thing. That's then, it's not today. It has no place in being brought forward and claiming any part of today. Stop. We will do a future podcast on acceptance. But I'm going to suggest that in your own best interests, you start right now looking into or reminding yourself about things like mindfulness and acceptance in the meantime. That way, when we get to it, all right, the next sequences in this compilate that I'm going to be doing with you, that way we can have a more vibrant discussion on it. Okay, I'm going to come back to my third favorite expression, and that is motivating it oneself by the carrot and stick. As I say in Conquer the Clutter, my book, let's not lie to ourselves, all right? Misrepresenting the truth generally, the stick will always get us started faster, all right? The stick is punishment, it's negative, and it will keep us going. But the downside of the stick punishment, negativity, self-judgment, letting the committee rule, committee in your head, the downside of that is we're only going to keep moving as long as the punishment or the threat of it continues. Which means that if you're going to motivate yourself that way, you better get ready to spend the rest of your life beating yourself up. Okay? It's not going to be successful. When the punishment stops, so do we. Or we slow down because the punishment itself, this is the scary part, the punishment itself or the threat of it has become our motivating factor. What a life we have planned for ourselves to do that to ourselves. Think of what that would be like. Every day, a reminder that we're a complete screw up. Really? We've all screwed up, pardon the vernacular. It's part of life. Sometimes you get it wrong. You do nothing for yourself to remind yourself of those times. Challenge the plan, not the person. However, what motivates us is not motivating us in a positive way when we do that. Positive creates energy. Negative depletes it. Positive creates hope. It creates creativity. Each one of you here today have your own unique twist to put on this information I'm giving you. And with that creativity, you'll have your own brand of success. Positivity creates thinking outside the box solutions to day-to-day worries and challenges. However, if we can turn down the volume, it's a hard habit to break, but let's start by turning down the frequency or the volume of it and try to extinguish it that way. As we interact with ourselves and others, we can start using the carrot instead, reminding yourself of your strengths, reminding yourself of the times you worked hard and it worked. You tried a different approach and it worked. Reminds you that you have that in you. The great thing about the carrot is, as a motivator, is it's an enticement. It keeps us moving forward with hope in ourselves, trust in ourselves, that sooner or later we're going to get a little chunk of that carrot. And it builds energy, hope, trust, self-respect, builds energy. It builds positivity. It counteracts negativity. It helps us not get wiped out so much when negative or unfortunate things happen. It helps us get back up on our feet. It gives us hope. And with hope, we can do anything. Each and every one of us has enough hope that we can do anything we set our mind to do. If you can imagine it, you can do it. Now, that wasn't said by somebody as profound as Newton. That was Walt Disney. Okay? But if you can imagine it, you can do it. Because if you couldn't do it, your mind couldn't get itself around that vision. Let's have a look at becoming organized and strategic. Okay, before I let you go. Here are some things that would be really, really helpful for each of you to know as we're working toward developing, sustaining, and using motivation to create for ourselves. Let's clarify what we really want. What do you really want? Let's complete one small thing at a time until we've completed our unfinished tasks. In the process of doing that, let's enjoy the step-by-step process and advancement as we declutter both our minds and our environment. As I say in Conquer the Clutter, there's more to life than decluttering goals. Let's figure out where we're going to get the fuel. Let's try really hard to stop wasting it on negativity. Okay. Let's allow ourselves the time, space, and focus, and the permission to enjoy more of what we love to do. Let's identify and eliminate as quickly and entirely as possible any activities, any beliefs, any values, any fears, any habits that are draining us. Because some of those things that they absolutely need to be eliminated. It might be relationships. Are there relationships? Anybody out there hearing me? Are there relationships that we're involved in? Okay, that are not good for us, that should be eliminated. Maybe we need to turn them down. Fears, beliefs, whatever would allow us to be in a relationship that is really not good for us. Let's give them less agency in our life. There are toxic people. All right. There are toxic memories. There are toxic parts, probably to each and every one of our histories, myself included. All right. Nobody's life is perfect. Let's pack that up and put it away once and for all. How about a little self-acceptance? How about a little more self-care? Being good to yourself, being kind to yourself. How about a little more humor about our failings? Some of my feelings have been actually, in hindsight, quite comical. They weren't at the time, but yeah. Don't take yourself too seriously. All right. How about a little more love? Okay. In our heart for our goals, our desires, our dreams. And most of all, no matter how good the day has been, no matter how good we've been in the day, our worth. Our worth. How about a little rest? Stop looking at do your one small thing every single day. Be accountable to yourself about it. And then give yourself rest. Give yourself ease. How about a little catch your breath time, even if the work isn't entirely done? You've done today's portion. When you set a goal and you meet that goal, as small as it is, it's done. Take it off, it's done. You've done today's portion. Tomorrow's another day. How about, as I say in Conquer the Clutter, indulging, heaven forbid, indulging ourselves. Okay, and reminding ourselves that as overwhelmed as we sometimes feel, as stuck as we have been, we remain growing, learning, developing human beings. Pick something that will be a tangible, emotional validation of the fact that you are still alive and you feel alive. Find that feeling alive feeling. Next week's podcast is going to be about dealing with the facts, the truth of any situation, and we're gradually going to work podcast by podcast through to gaining more control, as I said before, over our time, our energy, our focus, that bad habit of negative thinking, so that we can have the best chance of reminding ourselves about our strengths and then being able to access and work from them. Okay, does that sound like a plan? I will see everyone, well, I won't see you, but you'll see me next week. You take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Can you do it? Yes, you can. Yes, you can.